bold, rich, pulled just right. Then comes the milk, steamed smooth, creamy, and balanced. The perfect latte is not rushed. It is crafted, one cup at a time. Your perfect latte is ready. Coffee first, then everything else.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Beyond the Headlines. I'm DJ Moises, and today's conversation is brought to us by our friends at Coffee First. The headlines are straightforward. A labor group representing workers in the IT-BPM industry is seeking a 1,200 daily minimum wage for entry-level employees in Central Visayas. For many workers, it is a question of keeping up with the rising cost of living. For employers, it is a question of remaining globally competitive in an industry where clients can choose to invest in countries like India, Vietnam, Egypt, or South Africa. This afternoon, we look deeper and think better. Joining us today is BIEN-Cebu President Kyle Enero. Hi, Kyle. Welcome to Beyond the Headlines.
Hello, good afternoon, DJ, and thank you as well to Sunstar for having Bien over this afternoon.
And we're also grateful that you are here because this is a good conversation that hopefully will also shed better light, no, as far as our viewers are concerned regarding the possible change, no, in the minimum wage. But before we start, just kidding. Before we start, can you walk us through about what BIEN is and your advocacy?
So, Bien means BPO Industry Employees Network. We were founded in 2012 and we became a DOLE Registered Workers Association in 2013, and our Cebu chapter was established in 2014. So as a whole, we've been existing for 13 years, and throughout that period, we've been known for advocating BPO workers' rights and welfare, whether that be in terms of earning a livable salary, security of tenure, safe and healthy workplaces, and of course, the exercise of our democratic rights to freedom of association.
And then just for our viewers also to see the structure ba, because I also see articles that are from Davao, and I also see articles that also from Luzon. So can you explain the structure in the Philippines and where does Central Visayas belong?
So, as I mentioned earlier, BIEN is a national workers association of BPO employees. So, we have chapters across the Philippines from Luzon to Mindanao. And specific in Central Visayas, the chapter here is mainly based in Cebu.
Cebu.
So, that's why we bring up issues from the national capital region down to the corner of Mindanao.
And then in terms of membership, kanang even just estimate how big is the organization?
So we have a recorded of a national membership of around 3,000 to 5,000 members. So
And how can members join the organization?
well, they can just reach out to me personally or through our Facebook page and inquire about how to join.
Okay. So that means you're also leading the Philippines.
Come again?
You're also leading the Philippines.
I'm also the concurrent vice president for Visayas of BIEN.
Okay. No, but for example, for members in Mindanao or even Luzon, that's the same methodology also.
Yes, they can just
Reach out to the
us.
chapter.
Yes.
Okay. Now the other thing also is if, like for example, if we have viewers who are interested to join ba, do they pay a membership fee or registration fee?
It's just we have an annual membership fee. This is what helps sustain the organization in its campaigns and advocacies.
And speaking of campaigns and advocacies, when we say nga Central Visayas, this covers both Cebu and Bohol.
We try to include Bohol as much as possible, but it's mainly in Cebu.
Okay. No, because I'm referring now to the cause that BIEN is advocating, which is the increase of the minimum wage for IT-BPM workers to 1,200. No? Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. This translates to 36,000 monthly.
Correct. If we are to here's how we have to break it down.
Sige.
There are two ways how a worker is paid in the Philippines, either daily or monthly. Those daily paid earners are no work, no pay is strictly applied to their how they are paid. Monthly paid earners like BPO workers,
Correct.
we are paid every day of the week. So that's 7 days in a week times how many weeks in a year. That would be the total earnings we should be having. So if to compute the 1,200 proposal we are raising, that would, in fact, it would be 36,500.
Okay.
So that would be the push we are advocating for in terms of monthly paid earners like BPO workers.
So we're saying now for those who are paid daily, it's 1,200. And if those who are paid monthly, that's 36,500.
Yes.
Now, the reason why I ask about the scope, because Central Visayas, although you said that it's largely Cebu, but from what I read from the papers, it's actually Central Visayas.
Yes.
So is Bohol also included with this
Yes,
one?
if the proposal is accepted, then workers in Bohol will also benefit.
Okay. Now, that said, the other curious question also is how did you arrive to the 1,200?
All right. So in the labor movement, we have been rethinking over and over how much the increase we should be demanding from government with the current minimum wage setup we have. So with the help of independent research think tanks, we came up that on a national level, what could be considered as a livable standard of pay would be 1,200 daily. That takes into consideration the current prices of goods under the base of the consumer price index. And then there's a calculation used by the National Wages and Productivity Commission how they determine what could be livable wages. So using that formula that they have, it would come up with a figure. In fact, nationally it's 1,200, but strictly speaking with the inflation rate in the Central Visayas, it would be around 1,400. So it takes serious consideration of the current prices of goods, unlike the current minimum wage setup that is devoid of that consideration.
So we are saying that this is based on a study, no?
Yes.
That's saying that the livable standard of living would require a wage of 1,200.
Yes.
And I also captured when you say that it's not even including just yet Central Visayas, which is for the past months now have been having inflation higher than the national rate. No?
Correct.
That's what you are saying. But on the flip side also, did you also consider that that's a livable standard, but there are different types of work also that would require pay higher than that and also pay lower than that?
We understand that kind of sentiment because specific to our industry, skill set is one determining factor in how
True.
much a BPO worker would be paid. And now, our position in BIEN is clear. Workers that have more to offer to the company should be paid
Paid more.
more, but the minimum should be livable. No matter the type of work you contribute to a company, you have to be paid a dignified, or in other words, a livable standard of pay. Otherwise, we're just exploiting workers. So we have to respect the right of a Filipino worker to a livable standard. And in fact, that is clearly stipulated in our constitution.
Now, the other thing also, just a clarification, because even with the current state, no, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, because you have more conversations also with employees on the ground, no. But correct me if I'm wrong. Generally, even in the absence of the change in wage, the BPO workers are paid usually higher than other industries.
Okay, so
Sige.
this is where my presentation comes in.
Sige.
Because we want to debunk the idea that we are highly paid. So to get that clear, to get an understanding of it, how we are the structure in which we are compensated is what we call in BIEN as a package system. The package system is composed of two things. First, the basic pay, meaning the guaranteed pay that we will receive in a month, and then you have the incentives and bonuses. Bonuses and the incentives and bonuses are those that the company can provide on top of your base pay, and the benefit or the allowances that a foreign client can pay for you as well. However, we consider that as a variable pay because that is subject to metrics based on performances, attendance, and client requirements. Taking that all together, you would have a total monthly package. Now, as I've mentioned earlier, between the two, only the base pay is guaranteed that we will receive, and it determines how much the labor standards benefits we will receive. For example, night differential pay, overtime pay, holiday pay, 13th month pay. So if it's very low, then we will also be receiving low value of in terms of overtime and etc. So this is how we are compensated. So that's why on our part, it's very crucial that the entry level salary we receive, in other words, the base pay, if it is raised to a livable standard at the minimum, it will be no matter whether we will be receiving our incentives or bonuses, it's guaranteed that we can live a dignified life even with just the base pay.
And yeah, maybe we should show that no to yeah, because I think that's a good kanang transparency also and piece of conversation. My first question when it comes to that, but it's because majority of the by the way, for the education of our viewers, it's no longer BPO karon ha.
It's
It's already IT
BPM.
BPM because we're more than kanang voice or call centers. No?
Yes.
There are already a lot of jobs also, higher value work that's already in the industry. But anyway, sige, for the context of our conversation today, I'll just use the word kanang BPO. Now, majority of the BPO workers also, they work in the evening. So statutory wise, their base pay is also kanang augmented no by night differential. So if and that's statutory. So meaning even if their base pay is for example 13,000, there's already an increment of 10,000 given if they work on the night shift.
Yes, that is true. However, how much you will earn from your night differential pay is subject to how much is your base pay.
Correct.
So it's still dependent on how much you will be paid in terms of your basic salary. So that's why on our end, when we discuss about how much should a BPO worker be paid, because again, we have this is from the Bureau of Working Conditions, how monthly paid employees should be paid.
Para makita
So-
klaro. Sige.
How much they should be paid in a month. Meaning to say, as I've mentioned earlier, that it should be 365 days in a year. Now, if we take that into consideration, if we use the minimum wage in Central Visayas, which is at 540 pesos daily, multiplied by 365 days in a year, divided by 12, which is the total number of months in a year, you would get the minimum and monthly salary or pay of a monthly paid employee should be no less than 16,425 pesos. However, we still receive reports of colleagues in the industry receiving as low as only 13,000 in terms of base pay. That is not livable and in fact not within the minimum standard established in our existing minimum wage rates.
Okay. Now, I think if I think the conversation now can be divided into two categories. Number one, the basic if companies are paying less than the minimum wage, then there's no conversation around it. That should be illegal.
Correct.
Okay, so that piece, I think it's a generally accepted. Although I'm saddened, no, if companies don't comply to that, no, I'm saddened. But that's already a generally accepted principle that the minimum wage earners should be paid according to
The minimum wage.
the minimum wage. But now let's go into the conversation specific to the 1,200, no? Because I think that's the part that is unclear, no? As we speak. That's why, correct me if I'm wrong, there was a consultation that
Yesterday.
transpired yesterday. No?
Yes.
Because everybody accepts the 540 katong mga legal. But even the legal ones, they want to understand the 1,200. So sige, let's go to the 1,200 na lang yun, specifically. Now, the other piece also that, and correct me if I'm wrong, okay, this is also a good calibration of the general practice, because now, at least from what you're saying, we know that there are companies who are paying less.
Yes, exactly.
So that's, yeah. Okay, now that said, let's move to the other piece, Pud. Generally, it's also accepted in the industry, and you can correct me if companies still practice this, that, di ba, because employees, they work on country holidays, no?
Yes.
That they are serving. So that means when it's a Philippine holiday, they are still obliged to work, but they are paid according to the overtime rate specific to that holiday. That's true, no? Because that's statutory.
That's they will be paid the holiday pay.
Okay, kana yun. Okay, illegal sad na.
Yes, exactly.
if wala. Now, the other piece also, which is kanang what makes the industry supposedly different from the others, it's because on an event that there is a national holiday of the country that you are serving. So, for example, it's a U.S. holiday. You are not obliged to work. It's a country holiday, man.
That depends on the nature of the account you're working with.
Yes, but generally ba, if work does not require
In the
like,
country.
yes, in the country, then you're not obliged to work.
Correct.
Wala may tawo, no? But you are still paid even if you work or you do not work. Generally, that's a practice of BPO. So correct me if I'm wrong, if that has already changed.
That should be how it's done.
Correct.
Because as I've mentioned, we must be considered as monthly paid employees.
Correct.
Because our contracts provide us with a monthly package. So how do you compute a monthly package if the base pay is based off a daily rate? So meaning to say, whether we work or not, we have to be paid every single day of the week. And unfortunately, on our continuous study of the situation on the ground, what our colleagues are experiencing, there are still companies paying us 5 days in a week when it should be 7 days in a week, which is if we don't show up to work, then we don't get paid as if we're daily paid earners.
But I think no kana but remind me about that if I'll miss that point now. But just to close on what the section also that I just brought up, it's more of an education also
Yes.
for those who are not in the BPO industry. Kay the reason why the BPO workers are also viewed among the many reasons as heroes, it's because they work on Philippine holidays.
Yes.
No, unlike if you work in a bank, for example, you don't work on a holiday. Diba?
Yes.
So to compensate for the heroism, so that's why they're paid, no, on the rate specific to the holiday. But what not many also has an appreciation for support, no, that are related to bank holidays also in the countries that they serve. If it's a US holiday, even if they work or they don't, they're actually paid. So mura siya kanang balance-balance. If it's a country holiday, you don't work but you're paid.
Yes.
On a Philippine holiday, you work but you're compensated also according to the holiday pay. I hope our viewers have captured that. That's why traditionally it would, and plus the night differential,
Yes.
because I think 70 or 80% of BPO people work in the evening.
Yes.
So if you put in the holiday pays and if you put in the night differential, if BPOs are paying their employees right, they would always land at a pay higher than bank tellers.
Yes.
So kana, sige, so at least calibrated
Yes.
kana. That's still the actual situation now.
Yes.
Oh, sige. Yeah, you want to say something?
So that is true. The conversation here, the conversation that we want to bring to light is more of, especially with the discussions. I was personally involved in the consultation yesterday with the regional wage board, and hearing from management representatives, even if they're not technically from the BPO industry, but the mindset of employers, especially the bigger ones, it's that their idea is they would rather increase our allowances or incentives rather than increase our base pay. And again, as I've presented earlier, allowances or incentives are subject to certain requirements and can be withheld or not granted at all in the specific amount stated in your agreement with your employer. So that's why it's crucial for us that the base pay must be to a livable standard.
And then, by the way, because this is a conversation also ba, correct me if I'm wrong, feel free. What if employees will just have to, before they sign up to a company, first they have to make sure, because it's declared in the contract.
Yes.
So first they have to make sure that they're paid according to the minimum wage.
Yes.
It should have been in the contract. So I'm also surprised why there are employees who would sign in a contract that's not legal to begin with. And the minimum conversation wouldn't have been happening now
Correct.
if they refuse to sign.
So two things. First, it's hard to find a job in the Philippines. So we cannot blame our colleagues in the industry for accepting whatever pay they're gonna accept because they need it to sustain themselves and their families. Second, it's because of this dubious package system that if you look at it in hindsight, oh, dako kay kong sweldo. Pero if you really break it down, specifically sa imong base pay, gamay ra jud kay siya.
Pero actually in the contract, there's the base pay, there are the allowances.
Yes.
So they will really see that in the onset na I think this is not legal.
Correct. However, dili siya ma-emphasize enough nga kanang ma-bloat man siya ang figure ba. Okay, madawat
No,
na lang
it's
po.
really base pay.
Yes, it's base pay.
Correct.
Pero syempre, we can't blame our colleagues in the industry for accepting whatever offer the company will provide if maupo na ang ihatag niya as a package as a whole. Nga, again, first, they need a job. Second, wala sila like, okay, I'm gonna make do with what I have right now. Kay lain man po, di man mi ka-question ana sa employer on the onset nga tagamig job offer kay
Why
it's-
don't Knight sign it and report? Rather than sign it and then report.
that would be ideal. In fact, I would
yeah.
prefer it that way, but knowing how labor arbitration is in the Philippines, it's a very, very, very long process that a worker would rather just move on with his life rather than attaining what would be to us justice.
And I think that we cannot settle that in a conversation as short as today. But this is for the viewers also, and you can also have your piece also about what I will say. Di ba there's a piece na walang maluloko kung walang magpapaloko. And walang maluloko kung walang nagloloko. So meaning it's both sides, no? The employers should not do something illegal, but I think those who are looking for a job should not also put themselves in a situation that's not legal. I think that's how we can solve the problem. Both employees and employers should do things legally. No.
That is, I would agree to that, but it's also not mutually exclusive when we say that the standards in which workers must be compensated should be again towards a livable standard. So right now, what we are seeing, specific to our industry at least, that we're being lowballed. I have data here that for everyone's information. People the industry is growing in terms of revenues. Last year, the IT and Business Process Association of the Philippines, IBPAP in short, said that the industry garnered a revenue of 40 billion US dollars, and that's built on the backs of workers. So, but despite a growing industry, we are seeing not just stagnating wages but declining. From 2005 until 2020, of the top BPO companies where their salaries are available online, katong pinakaubos nga rate sa usa company sa una, mao na ang pinakadako karon. So it's not keeping up with the growth of the industry, the rising standard of cost of living para sa mga workers. So dili na siya commensurate ba sa kung saang kahimtang karon.
And by the way, you can continue to bring that up, no, because there are companies. No. Ipakita na to, no, kay Pan. There are companies raba that are named, no. So kanang I hope the information is actually correct. And the second also is if companies are named here and then you don't agree to this, then feel free also to participate in the conversation. But what the chart is actually telling me, correct me if I'm wrong, is all of these companies, even if through the years, instead na nagkasaka, nagkanaog ang
Yes.
compensation.
Correct.
That's what you're saying, no?
Yes.
And very drastic for the three except one. The other one is kwan, but the others were really drastic decreases, no? That's what
Yes.
we're saying. So kato lang ha, so for companies also that are kanang quoted here, if the information is incorrect as presented by BIEN, then you can also participate in the conversation. Sige. So on that piece then, kanang to get that part, the other nuance also, and correct me if I'm wrong, if that's something that's also common on the ground, through the years, the array of services that's offered by the IT BPM industry has already evolved
Yes.
since 2005. No? I'll use your date, no? Since 2005. Meaning, there are really work that are paid up to 150,000.
Yes, and
Depending on like if you are a developer,
correct.
systems integrator, this is like paid higher than that, no? There are also realities na ni-expand po siya to work that can be done by high school graduates.
Yes.
Diba? Because in the past, ang requirement majority adto was college level or
Yes.
college graduates.
Nakatungtong og college or ni graduate og
Correct.
college.
Oh, but it even started with just college
Yes.
graduates, and then eventually naabot siya to college level,
Until
and now
senior
niabot
high.
na gid tag senior high or even high school. No, okay. Once technically they step out of high school, they can be employed naman.
Yes.
'Di ba? So niabot na siya there. Pero that would also tell us na some companies may be exploiting this, and that's X. But if we assume that the companies are not exploiting, it's also because the jobs that are available are also easier in terms of complexity compared to the jobs before. There are actually jobs like just drag this file to a folder. And they call that archiving. I've seen that actually. No, just click and drag, click and drag, click and drag. There are also jobs like scan, and then drag. So these are jobs that were not done in the past. So in terms of complexity, it also has changed. Do you think also it's reasonable for the companies to adjust, not pataas compared to the complexity, but panaog sa kung nagkasayon ang trabaho?
Okay, so on the point of the evolution of the IT BPM sector, that is true, especially with the integration of artificial intelligence that nagka-develop po ang panginahanglan sa mga clients abroad. But building up on that, because the IBPAP defines two different skill sets now, the soft skills and domain skills. Kanang soft skills mo na kanang effective communication, active listening, critical thinking, basically the traditional characteristics you would need from a BPO worker. Katong mga magdawat og calls. Now,
Technical calls.
technical calls. But katong domain skills, in relation na siya, for example, systems integration, software development, nga na mga niche nga mga skills. But it boils back again on the position of BIEN is that mas maayo if a worker has more skills, they get paid more. We will not argue with that. Mas maayo na, mas maayo ka, mas dako kang sweldo dapat. Pero ang amo ang position is kung ang katong mga minimum, even as simple as a clerical work as data entry where you just type in, you just transfer one stuff to the next, you should still be paid the minimum wage because
A minimum wage, no argument
a
with that.
livable minimum wage. Because again, these clients are, although one thing nga klaro sa mga is the IT BPM sector nagkadaghan po ng what we call as in-house nga BPO companies. Pasabot ka ng mga nana sa Philippines ba, you work for them directly and dili siya foreign client imuhang
Correct.
katrabaho. But dominant gihapon ang kanang mga traditional BPO companies. So the principle of outsourcing is still there nga kanang kato for example US clients. Say for example in California or for example Verizon, that's one of the biggest clients nga naa diri sa Philippines. Verizon is a telco based in the US. At the lowest, Verizon workers in the US are paid a minimum daily hourly rate of they're paid an hourly rate of $20. That if you convert that to the current value of peso right now in terms of dollar is kung 60 pesos is $1, so $20 times 8 times 60, that's 9,000 pesos. At least 9,000. Nya amo ang sweldo equivalent ra sa pinakaubos 540. That's a very huge disparity.
I'm not saying also, Han, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not saying also that kanang, again, illegal, no? Kanang X, yun na. Illegal XX. But the other piece also is, did we also recognize that part of the reason why Verizon, brands like that, moved to the Philippines, it's because of they're not expecting that Filipinos are paid just like their country employees or in-country employees.
We are aware of that. That's why when we ask for a livable entry salary pay, nga right now it's 1,200. Layo ra jud kay siya of how if ang kung sa mata lang sa kanang foreign nga client, dako gyapon siya og saving kay again we are ang katong giingon nga nag-evolve ang kanang IT BPM sector sa dili na lang mga kanang traditional BPO setup nga take rag calls or do non-voice stuff, pero that's still the dominant nga category sa sa IT BPM sector in the Philippines. In fact, more than I think around 1.1 or 1.3 million are employed under contact centers. Pasabot ang kami. I'm a call center agent specifically. So daghan gyapon sa mua ang nagatrabaho ana. So
And are they part of those paid also below minimum
there are, yes,
in your
katungiwan.
company?
Kung ako ang i-reference, if I calculate
Yeah.
my base pay to how much it should be based off the minimum wage standard, it's below gani.
Below standard minimum or
Below standard
below
minimum.
livable minimum?
Below standard minimum.
Like below 540?
Yes. It's only if I calculate it right now, it's only 520 pesos. It's 20 pesos less than the minimum wage in Santa Visayas. And I have workmates that have reported that they receive 14 or 15,000 base pay. And wala sila incentives ana because they're assigned to an account that doesn't have additional allowances.
Sige, so we'll also give your company a chance also to to rebuke that, no, para balance. But yeah, okay, sige. Okay. Sige, now going back, but at least that's been said, and then wala man ta nakakita sa both sides, so we'll just stick to this, and then we'll give your company a chance also to to issue their statement just in case, no? But going back na sad sa katong range ba, because unsa man ni katong di ba magkataas ang complexity, magkadako sad ang pay.
Yes, and we
Higher
don't
value.
argue with that.
But do you also recognize katong giingon na magkaubos pud siya ang complexity, dili mo naog sa minimum wage, but di pod siya siguro mo compete with those who are at the median. Kaya naman tayo median, katong tech support na to nga traditional. It becomes more complicated than higher. But ang complexity pod from the traditional tech support, katong naabot naman ta sa archiving karon. Drag na lang yun, click and drag.
Lagi.
So,
Nagkasimple
di pod
ba?
siguro na to sila i-equal aning technical support.
Yes, again, mo ang point is kung imuhang niche, imong skills kay deserving of a higher pay, go, wala milalis ana.
But what I'm saying is it looks like this is the 1,200 proposal.
Nga median? No, not necessarily.
Okay, this was the technical support level man in 2005.
In
Yeah.
2000,
Oh, karon kinabot naman kita sa kanang click and drag
I
or
understand.
set appointment. Na kita diha.
I understand.
Call the doctor. Or tell him na magpaibot og ngipon by 8 o'clock. Kind of work naman kita.
Exactly, pero mao na siya nga in terms of our position, kato if ang skill sets lang jud Skill sets go. If the more skills you have, you can offer to a company, should be paid more. Pero ang baseline nimo is ang pinakaubos nga ihatag nimo kay katong makabuhi. So katong kani among gipakita ganina nga katong what we call as race to the bottom nga wages kay ironically dapat gani if ang industry kay nagkadaghan ang iyahang mga competitors kay meaning ana nagailog siya sa human resources. So therefore, competitive unta ang iyahang pay nga i-offer. But unfortunately, they're lowballing us because the reason there, one of the reasons at least that we know is kanang daghan og job openings. So it's not really us that should be offering privilege na lang nga makasud ka sa mua. Nga na bitaw nga that's ridiculous to say the least nga dapat ang again this is what we call the dignity of labor na dapat makabuhi siya.
So the other na lang, because I think just like any conversation, we cannot solve everything today also. But I think siguro, my suggestion also for your group is katulang siguro, kanang where do we draw the 1,200 proposal? Is it on the mid, which is the traditional technical support? That
Entry level amo ang kuan.
Katong drag and click?
Kung unsa ang category of entry level.
So included ang drag and click.
Mao dyan na kay mama na ang
Click
common.
and drag there.
Mama
So
na
1,200.
because on a national level, BIEN is proposed we are our primary legislative advocacy is what we call the Magna Carta for BPO workers. In that specific law that we are advocating in both houses of Congress, kay ang giset na mo nga entry level salary for BPO workers. Entry level salary dili package. Entry level salary is 36,000, which is based off the computation nga 1,200 every day in a month.
Sige.
So, entry level siya. So, katong mga tech support, they should be paid more because they're doing more. And for your information lang, we have reports gani nga tech support kay 13,500 ang base pay. So, what does that say of the industry practice being done right now?
Sige, I leave it for the companies to comment, no, just in case. Now, the other piece also, you brought an interesting point earlier kay ni-evolve na po ang industry. There in the past, majority are serving kanang globally. But there are also companies now who are serving local brands.
Yes.
Philippine brands. Do you also think the 1,200 daily or 36,500 monthly applies to those workers serving local brands?
Yes, because in our position, we support because just to clarify, the petition we filed to the Regional Wage Board is not exclusive to us BPO workers. It's actually a petition for all private sector workers because we believe that all of us in the private sector must be paid a livable wage.
Regardless of work.
Regardless of work nimo.
Bisan kanang unsa man kanang regardless of work.
Regardless of work.
Even
kung imuhang trabaho ra dira kay butang ta magbarog ra ka dira. Dagan imong minimum dapat makabuhi gihapon. Again, we reiterate, skill sets should only be secondary. The primary basis of it when you're paying a worker should be within livable standards. And that's how we should be paying our workers.
But sige lang ha, for kon lang ni siya, and then we can move to another topic. But in my view lang ha, and I'm not forcing it to you, I think skill sets it should be part of the compensation. Okay, pwede man na because it can work the other way around biya. Pwede biya siya patrabaho ng software development and then regardless bayran na po siya minimum wage because that's not how things work. The more complicated it is, the higher the compensation is. And the lesser complicated it is, the lower the pay is. But dili mo na og sa minimum wage. Klarohon na nato. But that's how it is, no? The more complex gets paid more. The lesser the complexity gets paid less. Dili pwede nagtindog, mauna na siya. Just for a lang.
I do understand. And again, I will reiterate that it's not mutually exclusive. But there is a primary and secondary in how we should be paying our workers. And again, the minimum that workers should be paid is within livable standards dapat. Mao mo ang advocacy dyan.
Sige. Now the other thing, now let's move na to the other moving forward lang sa before we leave, no. Let's talk also about the industry moving towards automation and artificial intelligence. And just to level set, para you also get to see where I'm coming from. I'm for efficiency. No. I'm also for speed. I'm also for accuracy. So that's what artificial intelligence actually does. What I don't advocate is we don't upskill our people to be able to do even better. So ato lang silang gibiyaan and then efficient na. That's what I don't agree. Pero if we are moving together, both humans and technology together through artificial intelligence, then why not? Because it makes things faster, more accurate, di ba? But kaning mga inanisad na mga hungihoy karon ba, do you also think that it can accelerate global companies? Kay kumusaka na ang cost for locations like the Philippines, do you think it would also kanang elevate the interest of global companies to just go for automation? Because labor cost in the Philippines and is already going higher.
When it comes to the discussion, because it boils back to the myth that we're trying to debunk right now na okay, if pasakaan na to ang minimum or ang labor cost dito sa Philippines, nag-exodus ang kuan, mga BP or mga foreign investors dito sa Pilipinas. It's actually a lie specific to the industry because India has for long been paying workers less than in the Philippines. So meaning to say, mas barato rito sa India kaysa sa Pilipinas. Pero nga nung mo-invest manggihapon ang mga foreign clients dito sa Philippines than in India, kanang maskin pa na ang India, when they can just stick to India, is because of our skill sets. For example, because again, basing on the premise nga, contact centers ang dominant gihapon nga category in the IT BPM sector, ang language proficiency sa mga Filipino is so close to how US or American workers can speak, then mas preferred na nila because it can cater to their audience or to their market. So mao na nga skill set wise, dili lang simple as labor cost ang ang consideration sa mga foreign investors. Kaya if that was the case, dili na unta, wala jud untay mo invest nga foreign business diri sa Philippines if kana lang.
Sige, just for context, I would agree, no, at least for the research that I got here, yeah, India is paid lower, no. But let's also recognize, ipark lang nato niya, but para perspective, let's also recognize that there are already language neutralization AIs today that the accent just disappears.
Tinood man na.
Correct. So that can potentially impact also competitiveness of India if our concern is on the accent. Okay, AI will neutralize that.
Tinood man.
So that differentiator of the Philippines to
Mawala.
AI will eventually potentially be leveled off na pod.
Tinood man, pero that would also mean on the part of at least on the part of foreign businesses, it would cost them more rather than just get an actual labor nga cheaper compared sa imong actual cost of you're paying pa minimum wage, say for example India, then mag-invest pa kag ningana nga technology.
No, but actually for
language
AI, it's just the initial cost that's difficult. But for large scale work that would require 10,000 people, that's savings eventually. So kana lang, no? Put into context also nga if global companies can already invest in artificial intelligence, that would translate. So bisan gabalibali si English can still be a good one because AI will translate that into perfect English and impeccable accent. You can choose pa English and British accent. I've seen that AI. And then with countries like India with a lower cost than the Philippines, if our language differentiator is already addressed by AI, do you think the impact of increasing cost in the Philippines would motivate more global companies to move to lower cost locations like India?
That is a possibility and we will not deny that. And we have no, at least on the part of us workers, that's not we don't have control over that. But if that is our position is this, what we are being presented right now is an insecurity of tenure because basing off everything that you've presented and what we know so far from what we've studied both on ground and researching the entire industry, it can be described as only one word. It is very volatile. And if that kind of volatility is allowed to persist in our country and become what we call as a sunshine industry in the first place, we invest it as a main economic driver, if at any time we just pay our workers with dignified wages, livable standards, and pull out sila, what does that say of the industry?
But if let's also consider that volatility is not just contained in the Philippines. Volatility is also what the world experience.
I understand, but on the perspective of unsa ang dapat day unta nga unsa day dapat nga klase nga industries nga ang itukod sa Philippines.
Sige. I think that's where we will potentially end, no? I think I would rather, and that's a good question, I think we would rather work as an ecosystem and look at how both workers and the industry, the employers, can actually thrive together. Because I think, murag ni segue na ko towards the end na nun, thanks to you. Because I think it should not be employer versus employee. No?
And we agree.
Yeah,
And
it should be something that we work together. But kato lang, before lang kumo-close, and for perspective, no, kay kato we covered India, there are also emerging locations. At least none, I can give this data to you. In like South Africa,
Yes, we are
they
aware.
have excellent just like the Philippines, they're classified with excellent English proficiency, but their cost to the Philippines as we speak is similar or slightly higher or slightly lower depending on the role. So in short, they are as good as the Philippines and their cost currently is just the same as the Philippines. So if Philippines will raise our cost, I think, if you're a savvy business person, where you would put your eggs, diba? The other country also is Egypt. It's also good to very good. So not bad. And so it's good to very good. And their labor cost is often lower than the Philippines. So if we increase the labor cost in the Philippines, Egypt would be more competitive in terms of the Philippines, and it's offering language proficiency considered to be good to very good. Put lang that on perspective, because that's actually where I was hoping na it would be more of an ecosystem conversation, employers, employees, and the players, because we would have to look at this long term. Kay lisod kayo if we focus short term, we get what we want, which is the race, and it might potentially compromise the competitiveness of the country that will eventually resort to an industry that's slowly going to be a sunset industry. Kana siguro, no? We don't want na mukalit lang tagka 12 noon because of the 1,200, but by 2 p.m. sunset na. Kana. Sige, your thoughts.
So, putting that into perspective, as well as global development, specifically in the US, because right now pending in the US Congress is what we call the Bring Back Call Centers in America Act. So that alone, again, we go back na we right now our position is clear. We want to work with employers in being able to deliver, because we workers mo deliver man mi kuto sa mga kaya, pero dili man gud makawala og gana og trabaho, makapawala og sense of what we're doing. Ni mura ra kag ni trabaho subay pa sa uban mga labor groups nga trabaho ra ka para makapangutang kanang. Ang simple ra kay gipangayo sa mga empleyado sa manamo and across the entire private sector nga makabuhi dapat ang standard sa minimum wage. Dili siya kanang poverty wages ang ginahatag sa mga workers, especially amid a backdrop of trillions of pesos in kanang labor productivity nga na-generate. So, bearing those in mind, kailangan siya nga subay sa nga nga framework bitaw nga makabuhi. And when we talk about labor costs in the industry, that's been a common thing. In fact, since last year, if you've read the news na katong mga naglinog, nagbaha, nga katong grabe yung mga experiences ng mga workers, okay? When we speak up, we're always told na don't rock the boat. Our answer to that, why are we blaming those rocking the boat when we should be asking in the first place, why is a boat so fragile allowed to sail in the sea in the first place? So kana lang mo ang closing remark.
Closing remark. Murag ka na sa to. Why are you asking Bien who is rocking the boat instead of asking why the boat is rocking? Okay.
Why such a boat so fragile kay maalam to sail?
Sige. I'll leave the closing remarks to you because my final question actually is what's your message, no, or your take ba, your final take about how employers, because this is not about employees versus employers or employers versus employee, you know. This is really about ensuring that both employers and employees can thrive and succeed. So what's your final take on how we can make that happen as an industry and as a country or even as a region?
As a whole, as a whole, we really want to, it's simple really. What workers only want is to be able to live with dignity, both for themselves and their families. That is not asking for too much. Companies, especially the largest of companies in the Philippines, a simple significant increase in daily minimum wages or monthly salaries will not hurt them. Businesses, smaller, gitawag nito mga micro, small, and medium enterprises that are the shield of a big business when it comes to calls for a significant wage increase. It must be government's responsibility. The role na dapat role ang gobyerno diri in the whole discussion nga sa mga gagmayng negosyo dapat hatag siya og tabang in terms of capitalization, subsidies to keep up if there are significant wage increases. As a whole sa business in this as a businesses jud dapat mas maklaro nga kanang ang mga added expenses nila, especially those that hurt small businesses, ma-eliminate if not reduced. So, mo na ang takeaway ana ba nga. Okay, mo na mo tinabangay sa employer, employee, but government should also be taking an active role in the whole situation.
Sige, so thank you, Kyle, and thank you to Coffee First for supporting conversations that matter. So the challenge before us is not to choose between workers and employers. It is to create conditions where both can succeed. So we will leave you with this question. How do we build an industry where Filipino talent continues to be the world's first choice? Not because we are the cheapest, but because we are among the best. That conversation doesn't end today. It is just the beginning of many more. And the goal is for us to understand each other. So I'm DJ Moises. This is Beyond the Headlines. Look deeper, think better. Have a good afternoon.
It starts with a fresh shot of espresso. Bold, rich, pulled just right. Then comes the milk, steamed smooth, creamy, and balanced. The perfect latte is not rushed. It is crafted, one cup at a time. Your perfect latte is ready. Coffee first, then everything else.